If the task can't be completed with what's already built, it creates new agents on the fly. These agents are generated using state-of-the-art large language models. According to VentureBeat, Emergence's platform supports models including OpenAI's GPT-4, O and GPT-4.5, Anthropic's Claude 3.7 Sonnet, and Meta's Llama 3.3. Depending on the task and configuration, the orchestrator selects the most appropriate model to generate and refine agent behavior. But this isn't just about generating code. Once an agent is built, it's capable of executing actions, verifying outcomes, and improving through repetition. A process Emergence calls self-play. The orchestrator doesn't stop once the agents are generated. It continues to monitor performance and learns from task outcomes. What separates this system from other agent frameworks is its complete lack of required manual intervention. No pipelines need to be set up. No agent libraries need to be dragged in. You just describe the goal. The rest is handled by the system itself, using recursive loops to continuously reassess and adapt. In practice, this means the AI is not only building tools, it's deciding what tools need to exist in the first place. Orchestrator architecture and recursive thinking.
Trek Senior, appreciate you for the follow out there.
Comes from its architecture. The orchestrator acts like a manager that's constantly asking two questions.
Appreciate you for dropping that follow. Stick around, man. Take a little peek at the show.
When it encounters a task it can't solve, it generates a new goal. The creation of an agent that can. This ability to reflect, plan, and create sub-roles autonomously is what Emergence defines as recursive thinking. Agents aren't created randomly. They're task-specific, assigned with memory, and given the ability to plan and verify their own output. Once created, they're stored in the internal registry so they can be reused for future tasks. During the demo, the company displayed a timeline of agent creation in real time. Each dot represented an agent, color-coded by function.
That's right.
From categorization to data extraction to reporting.
That's right.
As tasks progressed, the orchestrator became more efficient, creating fewer agents and relying more on existing ones. This addresses one of the common problems in multi-agent systems: bloat. If a platform creates too many agents for every new task, it becomes inefficient. But Emergence AI's orchestrator was designed
so we ain't gonna drag this video out to 11 minutes. Y'all can see what they doing with that. So imagine you could learn something, right? And then you have your computer that can learn things. See, we think about computers as we input the data into them, we control them, we type them on them, you know, all of that stuff. But then when you think about the computer, let's just say creating output, like creating stuff for you, I think about it in terms of our edited videos, music that we recorded, stuff like that. I don't think about it in it's gonna build me another computer. This computer sitting right here is not gonna build me another computer. You see what I'm saying? Let's see some more of this stuff. I don't think we ever watched this video, so I'm gonna watch
Thinking about starting your own business in 2025? Bluehost makes it easy to turn your vision into reality. Head over to Bluehost.
Since the turn of the century, technology has rapidly improved. Our reality is now filled with things that were mere dreams in the past few decades. Look like in 2050 for us. Let's take a look. Nanotechnology. First, let's take a look at nanotechnology. Over the years, scientists have made exciting developments and discovered numerous innovative applications for nanotechnology. As it stands, nanotechnology has the potential to change life as we know it. Experts in the field believe that nanobots will, in the future, be fitted into our brains to connect us to the virtual world more readily and faster. With the use of brain-computer interface technology, the mind and computer will be one, making humans very powerful beings with access to endless information and solutions to problems that the mind wouldn't be able to solve.
No, I haven't had a chance to look at my phone yet.
That stage, there may be no need for gadgets like phones and calculators. Well, this is very exciting for the students and a few people you haven't. Looks like math
Most
will not be a
notably,
universal
there will be
challenge much
press
longer.
looking
3D
for
print
quotes.
technology.
They can hit me up on
The
text
next
too?
tech advancement that we can expect in the future
And you
is
want
the
to
rise
handle
of
this
3D
like you
print
would
technology.
any regular
3D
press
print
conference.
technology is
You want no
already
comment?
advanced,
No
but we
comment.
can expect
You
it to
want
be
to answer?
even more
Go
advanced
ahead
in
and answer.
2050. Right
Just
now, we
remember,
have 3D printed
everything you
tools and
say
homes in
is
the
on the
future.
record.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. I like the little background music. I hope y'all can hear me right now over the background music. Like I said, welcome back to another week of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. My hair look crazy. These headphones. Today, what we doing today? Here on Mindful Mondays. Let me check it out. All right. Today we are every second talking about, y'all title probably off out there. And we just talking about every second. So we gonna go ahead and get the motivation in here for the day, and then we gonna go from there. Hold on, let me get y'all right out here on this screen. All right, there we go. Motivation for my men's out there. Motivation for men. All right, here we go. What we got? Can't listen to 20 minutes. 9 minutes was okay, but we heard that one. Let's scroll. All right, this one look good. Let's go. Let's go, y'all. I feel you, my guy.
I believe that everything happens for a reason. And sometimes good things fall apart so better things can fall together.
All right.
So by the time you're in prison, that's not rock bottom for you?
Nope.
You are Robert Downey Jr., the Golden Globe Award, Oscar nominee, movies, the life that most people look at and think, gee, I'd like a piece of that life. And
God punishes you by giving you everything you want. See if you can handle it. He wants to show you something. He wants to see how much you can take, how much you can handle.
All right.
It's easy to embrace hopelessness when things seem insurmountable. It's not that difficult to overcome these seemingly ghastly problems.
you are saying that it's not that difficult?
No. What's hard is to decide.
You gotta understand, before you succeed, you must first learn to fail. Like if you fail 1 or 2 times and you stop pursuing your dream, you ain't ready anyway.
But that's everything, right? In life, you emulate the end result of the process.
All right.
Most difficult situations will resolve themselves if you are persistent, if you don't give up entirely. That's what I never did. I never gave up.
Michael Jordan missed 9,000 shots. He failed 9,000 times. You get it? We all fail. It's okay. What is not
Hey, what's up, Stacy?
when you fail, you stay down.
Nice to have you in here. as usual. Oh, y'all couldn't even hear the video again.
Everything was going wrong. Nothing was going right.
I'm so mad. I hate when I do that.
There was no friends around. There was no family. You were in that place. What kept you going? When does a new day start? At midnight. If a new day starts in the dark, why are you afraid to use your dark side for your new beginnings?
There'll be times where you succeed, there are times that you fail. Wasting your time doubting whether you're going to be successful or not is pointless. You just put one foot in front of the other, you control what you can't control, and then you see what the outcome is. If you win, great, you're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey over again. If you lose, it sucks, but you're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey all over again anyway.
There's gonna be certain seasons in life to where you're in a season of just enduring. No matter how much things go well, you're gonna be in some seasons of your life to where you feel like ain't nothing working. You coming down the court, clear shot at the basket, ain't nothing falling. Man, you're not crazy. This is life. There's nothing wrong with you. These are the ups, the downs, successes, failures. This is the totality and the process of life. There's nothing wrong with you, and you can't escape it.
If you just do stuff and nothing happens,
Why do you even want me?
what's it all mean? What's the point?
When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person that walked into it. That's what the storm is all about. When you can't control what's happening to you, control how you respond to it. That's where your power is.
Yes, sir.
Because sometimes we don't understand, like, what is this thing? What is my purpose? Why am I here? Why do I have to go through this pain? Why do I have to go through this fear all the time? Why can't it just be peaceful all the time? Then it wouldn't be life.
Like, and I know the initial reaction when we go through things is to say, man, why did this have to happen to me? And this is an honest reaction.
Hey.
Because sometimes
I'm glad you
go
feel
through
that
some
way.
crazy stuff. And some of
I'm glad you feel that way, Stacy. That's what we here for.
the things we go through, I'm gonna just be real. It's not a scripture for it.
We have to take life at its terms, life on life terms, not life on our terms. You know, we have to live life on life terms. You say you love life, you want to live life, I'm going to show you life. Life is beautiful, but you have to accept the good and the bad as being beautiful.
I want the whole blueprint. It's like, no. Just take the first step.
If you don't fail, you're not even trying.
Yes, sir. Let's go, y'all. Now that we got our motivation in for the day, hope everybody is having a great day, a great positive day, a lovely day, as they say from Bill Withers. All right, let's get into our topic. So every second, we talking about every second. What does that mean to y'all? Let's just type it in. Every second. Every day you take, every move you make. I just like to see what come up when I type in exactly the title. Whatever. Oh my gosh.
I can't say
Let's
that
check this
like
out.
I feel great in this outfit. There's just nothing that says like.
This is a question from Andrew, who asks, what would happen if the Earth and all terrestrial objects suddenly stopped spinning, but the atmosphere retained its velocity? Well, first, nearly everyone would die. Then things would get interesting. At the equator, the Earth's surface is moving at about 470 meters per second, a little over 1,000 miles an hour, relative to its axis. If the Earth stops and the air doesn't, the air there will suddenly be moving over the surface at 470 meters per second. For reference, supersonic speed is 343 meters per second. The wind would be highest at the equator, but everyone and everything living between 42 degrees north and 42 degrees south, which includes about 85% of the world's population, would also experience sudden supersonic winds. The high winds would only last for a few minutes near the surface before friction with the ground slowed them down. However, those few minutes would be long enough to reduce virtually all human structures to ruins. Even structures strong enough to survive the winds themselves would be in trouble. As comedian Ron White said about hurricanes, it's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. Say you're in a massive bunker made out of some material which can withstand 1,000-mile-per-hour winds. That's good, and you'd be fine if you were the only one with a bunker. Unfortunately, you probably have neighbors, and if the neighbor upwind of you has a less well-anchored bunker, your bunker will have to withstand a supersonic impact by their bunker. My home in Boston is far enough north to be just barely outside the supersonic wind zone, but the winds here would still be twice as strong as those in the most powerful real-world tornadoes. Buildings would still be smashed flat, torn from their foundations, and sent tumbling across the landscape.
This is
Winds
crazy.
would be lower near the poles, but no human cities are far enough from the equator to escape
So
devastation.
much destruction.
The highest latitude city on the planet is on the island of Svalbard.
Now wait, before I go any further into this video, because it's like another 3 minutes, this is what would happen if the Earth stopped spinning. Like I said, I just like to type it in. The title is exactly how I got the title, just to see what come up. All right, let's see. Of every second of our lives. Let's see. Whoa, people, 60 seconds. I can't play 60 seconds on here, but that would be interesting. When nothing seems to go your way and you see no hope, watch this. Well, I see some hope, so I'm gonna not watch it. Alright, D59, okay.
If I had only 60 seconds to reach the whole world, all I would say is, your future self is begging you to stop wasting time. Every excuse, every delay is stealing the life that you could have had. Just imagine looking back 1 year from now and wondering why you didn't start today. I've been there, waiting for motivation, thinking I'd start when the time was right. But I learned something. The right time doesn't exist. You don't wait for motivation, you build discipline. So the biggest mistake here is waiting until you feel ready. Motivation is fleeting, but action, no matter how small, will build momentum. And that's how change begins. So here's what you do. Just pick one habit and stick to it. Stop doing so many things at the same time, and don't aim for perfection, just aim to show up. Build trust with yourself and the results will follow, I promise you that.
What have you
Hey, well, I don't know if he changed y'all life in 60 seconds, but that's a good 60 seconds for me. All right, let's keep going. Every second of our lives. Oh, see, these are songs. Oh, this is gonna be good. Best inspirational famous movie quotes.
I totally realized, fate. There is fate, but it only takes you so far because once you're there, it's up to you to make it happen.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't. It's too big. Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. All right?
All right.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
Does it get easier?
No. Yes. It gets easier.
Oh, yeah? Look at you.
Thanks.
The more you know who you are and what you want, the less you let things upset you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Right.
I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you never felt before. I hope you meet people with a different point of view. I hope you live a life you're proud of. And if you find that you're not, I hope you have the strength to start it all over again.
And that's it, y'all. Famous movie quotes. Now I need some more than this, y'all. Give me more. Give me more.
Look, you're not actually going to get anything done by watching another YouTube video. In fact, you're literally only procrastinating.
That's what's up.
Jake Hausler, age 10.
What day of the week was Halloween 2011?
Monday. That one I didn't even have to think about.
New Year's Day 2010.
Friday.
Friday.
I remember that because I was up all night at the Blues game.
That's when Jake was 6. He lives in St. Louis, loves sports, and he is, in most respects, a typical 10-year-old.
I just have that type of memory that can remember everything.
We thought it might help Jake to meet some other people with that type of memory.
So cute! Look at you! Oh my gosh, are you darling?
So we brought him together with Louise Owen, Bob Petrella, and Mary Lou Henner. To break the ice, Bob asked Jake about sports.
So October 27th, 2011.
October 27th.
Think about it, if you're a Cardinal fan.
It became 6.
That's
get
it.
it up, baby, get it up!
Who hit the key hit, remember?
David Freese.
That's it, yeah.
Center field.
All right, he's validated.
Okay.
It was like a super memory summit.
Is it as if you're living it again as opposed to, for me, kind of a two-dimensional memory?
For me, it is. I mean, you say the date, and I'm there as though it happened moments ago rather than 28 years ago.
And that is both
Hold on, I gotta see
emotionally
this.
and smelling and touching.
It
and
really
all of
feels
it.
like
The
time
whole
travel.
thing.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah,
It's
you
right
can
there.
feel, you can almost feel the clothes
Yes.
you were wearing. you know,
Exactly.
They can do
you
that.
know, just all the senses.
I wonder how that. No, I don't. Hold on. Let me see something. Having. What is the name of it? Eidetic memory. Let's see. I think that's how you spell it. I doubt that's how you spell it. Can we watch
Close, though.
Discovery?
It's called eidetic memory.
There it is. Eidetic. I think we can watch this.
If you've ever seen the TV show Unforgettable, you've probably thought it would be pretty cool if you had a perfect memory. I mean, Detective Carrie Wells
Hey,
can
what's
remember
good,
everything,
Media Coco?
even the clues that everyone else forgot, and she can use that to
Appreciate
solve
you
crimes. I mean,
for
most people
stopping
can't
through.
even remember what they had for lunch yesterday. Your memory is probably a lot like that. Even though you remember the story
Hope
of
you
your
get
life
something.
and
Hope you get something out of this episode.
important life events, most of the boring going to school and going to work that happens every day gets lost. But not for people with the actually very real condition called hyperthymesia, where they can almost perfectly remember everything that's ever happened to them. It's not the same as photographic memory, which is more about remembering everything you see, and as far as scientists can tell, doesn't actually exist. Hyperthymesia does exist, though, and it can actually be kind of a burden for the people who have it. We didn't even know the condition existed until 2006, partly because it's incredibly rare, with a few dozen confirmed cases at most, and also probably because people don't run to the doctor if their memory is too good.
Too
But
good,
the few
right.
people who do have hyperthymesia can remember basically everything they did, every day, starting from when they were about 10 years old, which is around the time when they start to realize their memory might be different from other people's. So if you're over 10 and you haven't noticed it yet, you probably don't have it. Most people with the condition also have these memories very closely linked to calendar dates. Name any event they've experienced and they can tell you the day and date, or vice versa, telling you what they did on any date you pick from their lives. The first discovered case was a woman named Jill Price. She wrote a letter to some neurologists asking for help and hoped understanding her condition might help others. When the doctors followed up, they asked tons of questions about her memories of her life. Like, without warning, they asked her to report every Easter she could remember since 1980. Within 10 minutes, she wrote a list of every date that Easter fell on for over 20 years, plus memories from each of those dates, and only made one mistake. Now, some people with hyperthymesia have used it to their advantage. A man named Brad Williams used his skill to become a contestant on Jeopardy, and another used his memory to win vacations through trivia contests. Another famous example is the actress Mary Lou Henner, who appeared on the TV show Taxi, then became an advisor on Unforgettable. Not everyone finds the condition easy to manage, though. Just imagine remembering every single time you've ever said anything you regretted in excruciating detail. It's bad enough suddenly cringing because you remember that time you sneezed all over your middle school crush. Price, the subject of that first case study, reported that her memory was a burden. She said it was driving her crazy, running her entire life through her head every day, and she would keep diaries to try to stop thinking about the memories. And in the 12 years since she first called attention to her amazing memory, scientists have discovered some clues about why this might be, although research is scarce since the condition is so rare. In 2012, a group of researchers found 11 people with the condition who were willing to participate in the study and compared them to a control group on a variety of memory tests, along with scans of their brains. Among other things, they found that the people with hyperthymesia scored higher on a measure of obsessive behaviors than the control group did. Things like hoarding, needing organization in their environment, excessive collections, or avoiding germs. Their brain scans told a similar story. A few regions of the brain associated with autobiographical memory, like the temporal lobe, were either a different shape or showed more activity in the people with hyperthymesia. But they also showed less gray matter concentration in places similar to what you see in people with obsessive compulsive disorder. The researchers were quick to point out that none of the people with hyperthymesia had been diagnosed with OCD, but it suggests that the two conditions might have a common mechanism in the brain. Plus, it seems like in some ways their memory is just as bad as the rest of us. People with hyperthymesia did much better on a quiz about various dates. They could name the day of the week 97% of the time, they could name a verifiable event 87% of the time, and produce an autobiographical event 71% of the time, all of which was better than the control group, who were down near the single digits. But on most other memory tests, like for short-term and working memory, they did about as well as the control group. Things like seeing how many meaningless digits they could memorize, or drawing an abstract design from memory. And more recent research shows they're also about as susceptible to false memories as the general public. In a 2013 study, researchers compared 20 volunteers with hyperthymesia to a control group on a few tasks that typically produce false memories in a lot of people. One was a test that usually convinces people they saw a word on a list when it wasn't actually there. And another involved the suggestion that they saw a video of the plane that crashed into a field on 9/11, even though there's no video footage of it that we know of. And overall, everyone did about the same. The people with hyperthymesia even did a little worse with the false memory of the plane. Those results suggest that having hyperthymesia isn't like having a tape recorder in your brain. You still need to reconstruct memories when you think about them, just like the rest of us. You're just really, really good at it for whatever reason. And you also probably know that even though the rest of the world tends to think hyperthymesia is the most amazing thing ever, being able to remember every single thing that's ever happened to you isn't all it's cracked up to be. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow Psych. When we started this channel almost 2 years ago, it was because our community on Patreon had grown to the point where we had enough support to make it happen. Our patrons voted for the new show to be about psychology, and since then, with your help, we've been able to dive into all kinds of research about our minds and the thoughts and choices that make us who we are. If you're not yet a patron and you want to help us keep doing
all right, so this is fun. Just the thought of this right now is kind of fun to me. So let's see how to increase memory capacity of the brain. Let's get some tips and tricks in here real quick, since some people can remember everything, some people can't remember nothing, and some of it might be wrong, some of it might be right. Let's tighten up.
Adaptive. This episode is sponsored by LastPass. Whether it's losing your keys or trying to cram information into your head for an exam, sometimes we just need our brain to be less forgetful. So, using science, how can you improve your memory right now? First things first, you should hit the gym. But sorry meatheads, you can't skip cardio. MRI studies show that regular aerobic exercise like running improves performance on memory tasks by increasing the blood flow and volume in parts of the hippocampus. This is important as the hippocampus is a part of the brain that is critical for learning and memory, but it shrinks by 1 to 2% per year in late adulthood. So aerobic exercise can be a great way to fight age-related declines of our memory. After the gym and pre-studying, grab a good snack. After a meal, the increased glucose and insulin has shown to promote the learning of new information. Glucose and insulin are also key to consolidation, the conversion of short-term to long-term memories, probably because the hippocampus we talked about earlier is enriched with insulin receptors. We said a good snack, but maybe try blueberries, as studies show participants given a blueberry supplement have a better ability to recall past events. Blueberries contain flavonoids that have been shown to protect neurons, enhance their function, and stimulate their regeneration. Make sure that you're keeping up with the group chat. Scientists link high-quality personal relationships to better memory. A 2017 study found that adults aged 80 and up who reported more satisfying relationships in their old age had similar cognitive abilities to people in their 50s and 60s. Other research shows hanging out with people can protect against memory declines common in dementia. Scientists think that our friends create social pressure that makes us take care of ourselves, and they even do things as simple as tell you directly or indirectly to go visit a doctor. Social interactions also present complex cognitive memory challenges that can stimulate your brain. Thank you, friends. Hug your friends today because they're increasing your memory. If you really want to be super extra about all of this, you could also try to become a memory champion. These are people who can, for example, memorize the order of a deck of cards in 30 seconds. Superior memory skills aren't because of anatomical differences, which means you could accomplish some of these same memory feats with intense practice. One study found that after 6 weeks of daily 30-minute training, normal people exhibited similar levels of neural connectivity as these memory athletes. When given a list of 72 words, they went from being able to recall 26 to 30 to remembering over 60 words. A little stressed about memorizing a presentation for tomorrow? Not to worry, as research suggests an optimal level of anxiety can help us remember details. During stressful events, hormones like cortisol act on the brain to promote the formation of long-term memories, probably so that we can better process stressful situations and change our behaviors accordingly. But it doesn't mean that in these stressful times we are going to become way better at memorizing things, as too much stress has been shown to impair memory. So it is about finding the right balance between not panicking and panicking just enough to sharpen your mind. For the most part, we are overly stressed, which leads to us forgetting our passwords. Thankfully, there is LastPass.
LastPass also helps relieve the anxiety.
Man, ain't nobody trying to hit no commercial. Let's get some more, though. Let's see some memory hacks. Oh, we already did that, right? You can... So basically, you can do stuff like sing a song. You can come up with, like, take the abbreviation of the words or words you want to remember and put them together and remember them that way. Blah, 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 blah. All right, so, all right, every second of your life. Let's see what they got for us here. I do.
So when you take an Adderall, what happens is you're actually releasing more dopamine into the synapses of your brain. And this is incredible. This is why you have so much dopamine going around in your synapses. And then there's this process called reuptake, where your body wants to recite.
This Japanese mindset will make you love your life again. Have you ever felt like life is slipping through your fingers? Like you're rushing from one task to the next, one achievement to another, but somehow it all feels empty. You might scroll through your phone, binge watch a show, or check off goals on your to-do list. But deep down, there's this lingering question, is this all there is? It's a heavy thought, isn't it? But what if the problem isn't life itself, but the way we're living it? Today I want to share with you a Japanese mindset that could completely transform how you experience life. It's called Ichigo Aichi, which roughly translates to one time, one meeting at its core. This philosophy teaches us that every single moment we live is unique, fleeting, and unrepeatable. Think about that for a second. Every interaction you have, every sunset you watch, every cup of coffee you drink, it's all happening for the first and last time. But here's the question, do you live like that's true? Or do you take these moments for granted? We've all been there. We're sitting with someone we care about, but instead of being present, we're scrolling through our phones or thinking about what's next. We eat meals without tasting them, walk through beautiful places without noticing them, and talk to people without really listening. We live as though life is infinite, as though we'll have endless chances to experience the same moment again. But the truth is, we won't. This is where Ichigo Ichi comes in. It's a reminder to treat every moment as if it's the only one you'll ever have, because it is.
Yes, sir.
It's about being fully present, fully alive, and fully aware of the beauty and impermanence of what's happening right now. But let's be honest, living this way isn't easy. We live in a world that constantly pulls us out of the present moment. We're bombarded with notifications, deadlines, and distractions. We're trained to think about the future, our goals, our plans, our problems, or dwell on the past, replaying regrets and mistakes. And in the process, we miss the only thing that's real this moment. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly lived in the present? When was the last time you felt fully alive, fully connected, fully immersed in the here and now?
Right now.
Here's something profound. Ichigo Aichi doesn't just make life more beautiful, it makes life more meaningful. When you embrace this mindset, you start to realize that even the smallest moments have value. A conversation with a stranger, the sound of rain on your window, the way sunlight filters through the trees, these aren't just random occurrences. They're once-in-a-lifetime experiences.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But here's the paradox: the more you try to hold on to these moments, the more they slip away. Ichigo Ichi isn't about clinging to the present, it's about appreciating it as it flows. It's about letting go of the need to control time and instead surrendering to the flow of life. And this brings us to the heart of the philosophy impermanence. In Japanese culture, impermanence isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. The cherry blossoms that bloom for only a few weeks each year aren't less beautiful because they're fleeting. They're more beautiful because they're fleeting. Their impermanence makes us treasure them. What if we saw our own lives that way? What if, instead of fearing the passage of time, we saw it as a gift? What if, instead of rushing through life, we slowed down and appreciated the moments we have, no matter how small or ordinary they seem? In the next part, we'll explore why we resist living in the present, how our obsession with control and permanence pulls us out of the moment, and how Ichigo Aichi offers a profound antidote to the anxiety and dissatisfaction of modern life.
All right. So before we go any further, let me say this, because I don't like to always just let the video play. The reason I chose this topic is because I feel like every single second of the day is a choice that I gotta make. Something, do something, go somewhere. And then, even if I decide to just rest and do something, that's still a choice I made to rest and do nothing. And so I wanted to kind of ground in time, like just in the moment at this point. And I didn't want to just go and say in the moment. So every single second, all of us measure time every day. No matter if you speak English, no matter if you speak Chinese, no matter what you speak or how you look, We all measure time all day long, every day. And so the basic unit is the second. And how do you measure it? You measure it in how you spending it. So just to stop and talk for a second. Let me see something. One more thing real quick. I jumped out of, oh my God. This will find you when you need it most. Nah. I'm gonna listen to a
Illusion of
couple more minutes of this.
Control why we fear the present moment. Let's take a moment to ask ourselves a simple but uncomfortable question. Why do we resist living in the present? If the present moment is all we truly have, why are we so quick to escape it, to distract ourselves, or to numb it with endless noise? The answer lies in a deep, almost universal human fear, the fear of uncertainty. The present moment is unpredictable. It can't be controlled, planned, or perfectly shaped to fit our expectations. We feel safer in the past because it's already happened. We feel safer in the future because it's something we can imagine, something we believe we can prepare for. But the present? The present is raw, unfiltered, and completely uncertain.
Right.
And here's the paradox: by avoiding the present, we're chasing an illusion of control. Think about it, how much of your energy is spent trying to plan for outcomes, avoid discomfort, or control what happens next. How often do you replay the past, trying to rewrite it in your mind, or project yourself into a future where everything is perfect?
Right.
But here's the truth.
Oh, come on.
One person significantly changed their telomere length within 4 days.
We don't want to face control is an illusion. No matter how much you plan or prepare, life will always surprise you. Things will happen that you didn't see coming. People will change, circumstances will shift, and the more you cling to control, the harder it becomes to live fully. This brings us back to Ishigo-ichi. The philosophy doesn't just teach us to appreciate the present, it teaches us to let go of control. It's a reminder that life isn't a puzzle we need to solve or a race we need to win. It's an experience to be lived, one moment at a time. But letting go of control is terrifying, isn't it?
Yes,
it means surrendering to the unknown. It means accepting that the present moment might not always feel good, that it might come with discomfort, sadness, or uncertainty. And as humans, we're wired to avoid pain. We distract ourselves with work, entertainment, or endless scrolling because we're afraid to sit with the rawness of the moment. So here's the question: what would happen if you stopped running? What would happen if you allowed yourself to fully experience the present, even if it's uncomfortable? Here's the beauty of Ishigo-ichi. It reminds us that even the moments we fear or resist are part of the human experience. And that awkward conversation, that rainy day, that moment of doubt, they're as unique and unrepeatable as the moments of joy. And when we embrace them, we find freedom. But embracing the present also means accepting its impermanence. And this is where so many of us struggle. We want to hold on to the good moments forever and push the painful ones away. But life doesn't work like that. The cherry blossoms fall. The seasons change. People come and go. And in our desperate attempt to cling to what's passing, we lose sight of the beauty in its impermanence. Ichigo-ichi teaches us that impermanence isn't something to fight, it's something to celebrate. Every moment, no matter how fleeting, is a gift. And when we stop trying to control time, we open ourselves to the richness of life. Here's something to think about. What are you clinging to right now? What are you afraid to lose? And how is that fear keeping you from fully experiencing the moment you're in? In the next part, we'll explore how to practically bring Ichigo-ichi into your daily life. We'll talk about simple, actionable ways to live more mindfully, to let go of control, and to rediscover the joy and gratitude that come with truly appreciating the present.
All right. Let me see. One more thing. Teachings about time. There we go. I just want to see.
Wait, stop. You're not gonna accept that ridiculous offer for your car accident, are you? What do you mean? The insurance company?
I usually start the discussion of the ancient Egyptian temple science with this particular slide. Now, this slide here from the masterwork by Schwaller de Lubitz, that's called the Temple of Man. This one in the book is titled Thoth, Master of the Net at Karnak. So the first thing to be aware of is that this particular being was considered to be the initiator of the spiritual culture of Egypt. And when the Egyptians would use the head of an animal, it represented a state of consciousness and a type of primordial power. So it wasn't that they worshipped animals, it was that they understood that various aspects of power from the mind of God manifest itself in different beings and different processes, and that the state of consciousness and power manifest in particular animals. And those animals then have the head on the body of a human being. Now, this being was not referred to as Thoth by the Egyptians. That's a later Greek corruption of the name. The original name is closer to Jehaute or Tehute. And this being is shown stretching the cord. And the stretching of the cord ritual in ancient Egypt has to do with the mystery that is central to every great spiritual tradition. How is it that we are conscious spiritual beings living in a physical world, in a physical body, and don't remember who we are or how we got here? It has to do with the whole process of creation connected to what we think of today as sacred geometry. The process of moving from what in physics today we call a singularity, and was always the concept of the center in ancient traditions, such as the Bindu point in the Himalayan tradition. And from that zero-dimensional beginning singularity, unified core point, you then move out into the first dimension of space. So he is stretching the cord to start to create space, to start to create a container in which conscious beings can evolve and attain higher states of development. So after making the first dimensional movement and the second dimensional movement and the third dimensional movement, you've created a three-dimensional space. Now what's behind this on the temple walls, this is also in the book by de Lubitz, and here he calls it Thoth, Master of Numbers at Karnak. It shows something that Egyptologists know about, but they don't understand the significance of, which is that there is a background net that the master designers in ancient Egypt used to lay out the figures on the temple wall. But it wasn't simply something so that you could arrange the aspects of the art on the wall. It actually had a vibrational component to it. And so what's actually being represented here in the grid is that one of the primary grids was a 19-level grid. And there's a particular power to the number 19. Every classical tradition understands not only sacred geometry, but sacred numerology. That just as shape has power, so do numbers have power. Now, the tradition that understood the power of the number 19 the best was ancient Egypt. And that was part of their 19-level vibrational grid. Then that knowledge passed into the next spiritual culture that came into that area, which was then Islam. And today, 19 is a sacred number in Islam. So the background grid of energy is also represented in a malleable form that can be directly manipulated and applied in the hands of the initiates. And so when you see on the temple walls in Egypt a picture of the initiates with the net in their hands, the net is really the fabric of space-time. It is the vibrational grid behind every living being and every structure in the phenomenal world. And so the hieroglyphs that accompany this would often say something like, they are being taught how to catch and cast magic. But that's a translation of an old Egyptian term. And we should bear in mind the saying by the great science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke, that magic is a term that we give for a form of technology that we cannot understand. And so that's...
Now, ask yourself the question again, why is he playing this? When you want to look at anything to understand it, You don't look at just where it's at. You look at how it was made and how it was created. And with the civilizations that came before us, they had a very accurate measurement of time in every second, even down to the fact that they can tell us what was going to be happening nowadays. So just pay attention.
That's exactly what's happening here. They're being taught how to use vibrational matrices, vibrational grids that stands behind everything in the physical world, including the human physical body, is based on a specific vibrational grid. Now, just as Jehalte was shown in the previous illustration from the temples, here we have an interaction between one of these great beings and the pharaoh. And today, when we translate the Egyptian text into English, we translate them so that it says that this is a god or a goddess. But that was not a concept from ancient Egypt. They didn't use the term god or goddess. They used the term neter. And neter is based on the hieroglyphic language that represents phonetics as the letters NTR. Neter means a conscious force of nature. And so there's no dichotomy for them between a conscious being and a force of nature. Whereas today we have a tremendous dichotomy, and we think of nature as being a clockwork mechanism that can be manipulated in some external way. But every classical tradition, particularly the ancient Egyptian, understood that the forces of nature are conscious. They can be communicated with. And part of the initiation process is learning how to communicate with the forces of nature. The term neter is the foundation for the modern English term nature. And so they are the conscious forces of nature, and the human initiate reaches out to connect to them, as you see with the hand grasping the arm. And then the neter interacts with the person through particular forms held in the hand. So we have here the waz, scepter, and the ankh. Now, these things are interpreted today by Egyptologists as being abstract symbols, so that the ankh represents life, for example. But there's much more to it.
This
Oh,
is
look at the
drink,
commercial.
It's a drug. Here's how it became
We
the
almost
most
done for the
widely
day,
used
y'all,
drug
so
on
I'll
Earth
give y'all a
and
little
why
bit
we
more of this.
These things are actually geometric energy emitters, that the shapes that they represented actually were the forms that emitted specific vibrational powers. And you'll note that the forms are being introduced around the area of the person's sinus cavities. And I went to a conference a year ago here in Silicon Valley. That was the TransTech conference, in which people were developing new technologies to be able to manipulate human brain states. And many of these devices are based on inserting diodes into the nose and being able to activate aspects of the brain through flashing particular flicker rates with these LEDs that then directly affect brain states. Because they found that by inserting them up the nasal cavity, you can directly affect the brain. And so you can see they're doing the same thing here. There's a direct connection to the pineal, pituitary, and all of the forces in the third ventricle of the brain, what was called the cave of Brahma in the Himalayan tradition, through the introduction through the sinus cavity. So the concept here is that the initiate is learning how to communicate with the netters, and that geometric forms emanate specific types of energy that are a part of the initiation and allow them to manipulate the net. So next to it is a pendulum from ancient Egypt that they called the Waj pendulum. And the Waj pendulum, the later French researchers referred to as simply the Egyptian pendulum. The hemispherical cap creates a penetrating carrier wave of energy that comes out of the tip, and the double zigzag lines, which have a energetic effect, but are also the letter N in the hieroglyphic language, actually change the vibrational state of the ray coming from the hemispherical cap, so when it exits the tip, it has been cleaned of some of its detrimental components. And so when we see all these pictures, once again, of the geometric energy emitters that are being used for interaction between the netters, the higher conscious forces of nature, and human beings who are at the higher initiate level, there are particular subtle radiations coming from geometric shapes and forms. That is the true science of sacred geometry. Much of what we describe in modern metaphysics with sacred geometry is an intellectual aspect of it but not the actual energy
And then
science
she
of it.
herself.
In ancient Egypt, they used the energy science of sacred geometry and the power of the shape-caused wave. So the Ankh is not just an intellectual symbol that represents life, it actually emanates a penetrating carrier wave from its base and the opposite vibrational wave from its top. That's why in pictures from ancient Egypt, you'll sometimes see the top going toward the nasal cavity into the brain of the person, and sometimes they'll be turned around the other way for the base. Some of the secrets of ancient Egypt through this vibrational science is that different geometric forms based on the shape-caused wave create different energetic effects. But there's a deeper level behind that, and that is different geometric forms actually resonate with different levels of creation or planes of nature. So this is a form that we use in advanced level of biogeometry called the Ibrahim Karim Universal Pendulum, and it actually combines shapes of multiple different plane levels: the physical, the vital, the emotional astral, the mental, the causal, the spiritual, and the divine levels that all have particular geometries that resonate with them. This means that by using the correct geometric form, the ancient Egyptians understood they could create a direct resonant exchange, like with an antenna, based on the sacred geometry. Sacred geometry became an antenna to resonate with a particular higher plane. So for example, if we take a look at this level.
Wow, look at that. The Nikola Tesla electric oscillator and then an Egyptian Ankh.
What in the human being is the emotional body and emotional function, and referred to as an outer plane in the Western tradition as the astral plane. Astral coming from a root aster, meaning star, meaning a source of light. And the forms that connect to that are the form of a hemisphere or a pyramid. So when they use the form of a pyramid, the shape itself acts like an antenna for the astral plane. And that's why they knew further that by modifying the shape on the pyramid, by making a slight indentation in the center of the four faces of the pyramid, it's so slight you can't see it from the ground. You have to see it from the air.
From the air.
And from the air, you can see here the slight indentation at the faces of the major pyramids at Giza Plateau. What that did is it changed the resonance of the pyramid from the general astral plane, where the lower astral has some questionable energetics, to resonate with the higher astral. And when you do that, it cleans up the energy that's being projected by the pyramid. So one of the great secrets is the geometries act like antennas to resonate with higher planes of creation, and then as a secondary effect, they will emanate through the shape-caused wave a particular vibration that is the result of that particular connection. And they knew enough about it, in fact, to work with sub-bands or sub-energies inside the general band. So the placement of the king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid is not in the exact middle where you might expect it to be. It's not in the middle, it's about 6 degrees 15 minutes off of center. And so that's to get a particular carrier wave that's a sweet spot for being able to connect a person through a carrier wave to higher dimensional levels, which is why that place in the king's chamber was used for these initiation rituals, as described by the Freemasons and others.
Now, I know that was long. I know that was drawn out. But a lot of this, I hope y'all take something away from it. Yo, Emily here, your new follower. Appreciate you, Emily Kennedy, 47432 for following me. We at the end of the show today, so I hope that you get a chance to tune in tomorrow. Tech Tuesdays, sorry for yawning on you. Tech Tuesdays tomorrow. I hope you get a chance to tune in. Of course, as usual, I'm your host, Dan F. Man, here on Mindful Mondays. All we was doing today is just taking every second that we can. This last video was just knowledge, straight knowledge. We use a lot of that foundational knowledge from our ancestors to do the things that we doing today. Don't even give it a second thought. So, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here for y'all today. This has been another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. Give y'all something good to watch on your way out. This is DGTA TV. Peace. See y'all tomorrow. Tech Tuesdays.
Yeah, because he would always pick me up. He would always change my perspective. So my daddy called me on the phone, he asked me a question. He said, son, you had a tough year, what's next? I said, Dad, I'm gonna be a hospital administrator. He said, not bad, but let me ask you a question, son. Do you believe you're an NBA player? You can't outproduce your self-image, son. If you don't think so, go take the job. But if you believe you're an NBA player, go for it. My dad had the self-control and discipline and waited for my answer, and my answer was yes. You're right, Dad. I can't work the rest of my life. But playing in the NBA is a dream I've had ever since I was a little boy. He said, go for it, son. I limped back into my coach's office with a cast on my foot. I said, Coach, what do I need to do to play in the NBA? I asked that question 4 years in a row. With tears in his eyes, he said, son, when I recruited you, I heard you was a mama's boy. But I'm here to tell you, you're just like your daddy. But what do I need to do to play in the NBA? He said, do 2 things you can play in the NBA. Lose 20 pounds and shoot a 3-point shot with range, you can play in the NBA. I think you should be a motivational speaker, son, but if you lose 20 pounds and shoot a 3-point shot with range, you can play in the NBA. I lost 20 pounds, and every day I would shoot 500 shots a day, every single day. I got invited to training camp with the Dallas Mavericks, and not only did I make the team, I became the first ever undrafted rookie free agent in the history of the Dallas Mavericks to start opening night. Could you imagine what was going through my mind? I had not started a basketball game since high school.
Right, I can only imagine.
I got to the...
We just in here right now getting the motivation. You can't hear it right now, but I'm gonna be speaking in a couple seconds. It's almost over. And chill with me, you know what I'm saying?
Thank you for making sure I was always home when the street lights came on.
That's right.
Thank you for making sure I could always hear your voice. Thank you for always changing my perspective.
That's right.
I know what it feels like to sit on a bench. I know what it feels like to get knocked down.
Yes, sir.
I know what it feels like to have a hope and a dream, and nobody believes in it but a few people. Go for your dreams. Don't live life with regrets. Go for your dreams. Don't live life with regrets. Go for your dreams. Don't live life with regrets. I could always hear my daddy's voice. You have children, you have grandchildren. Can your children and grandchildren hear your voice? I could always hear my daddy's voice. He would say, go out, have a good time, play with your friends, but don't let the street lights beat you home. Woo. When I started my motivational speaking business, I called my daddy and said, Daddy, I'm gonna be a motivational speaker. He said, son, you think you can be successful at it? I said, yes, sir. You think you can make a lot of money at it? I said, yes, sir. He says, go for it.
That's right.
That's all my daddy said to me was go for it. So when I think about life, when I think about my goals, one thing he did for me as a father is to make sure I was always where I was supposed to be. He would have me write my goals down, and he would check in periodically, basically asking me, Walter, where are you supposed to be?